Welcome to the Ho-Ho Show.
Rated the #1 most listened to podcast on Pluto. So join us now as we discuss news, politics, current events, and so much more. So clear the airwaves and strap in as we
defend the Constitution, because freedom matters.
Broadcasting live from the Cottage Studio. Welcome to the Ho-Ho Show, and as always, I am your host, Ho-Ho. How y'all's doing? I hope you're doing good. I really do. Man, I tell you what, it was a quick weekend. Holy cow. Very much of a quick weekend. And I gone and done something. Finally, actually, gone and done something. You see, I started this whole podcasting thing, back in, September 2017. And I believe I started doing it on my phone, moved to the computer, and then I had the broad idea of, I can get more bang for my buck if I just build my own computer, so that's what I did. I got a computer case, and a buddy of mine told me that they'd, do some customization work to it, and pretty much they've had it ever since. And that was before I even got everything for the computer. I ended up getting a case that was too small for all of the stuff that I had to go in it. And so needless to say, it's been sitting in a computer case that not all of the parts were even able to be properly installed, just kind of sitting there, couldn't even put the ends on it and whatnot, so I mean, like a completely open case. Finally, after some frustration with the thing, I'm like, you know what? I'm done. I'm getting the case and I'm putting everything into it. So finally, I have my computer in a computer case that I originally got intended for it. Finally, 4.5 years later, yeah, I was in no hurry. I really wasn't, but it's done now. So it's awesome. It looks pretty. I might even post some pictures on it later on. I don't know. So we've got some stuff to talk about. We really do. There's been not a whole heck of a lot going on, but at the same time, there's been quite a bit of stuff going on. And just so you know, the live stream is now available on the website, thehohoshow.com. Just click on the videos tab. And the very first thing up there is the live stream. So you guys can check that out live if you so choose. Otherwise, I am on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter and live on Spreaker and available as a podcast on all kinds of different platforms. Holy crap. Now, let's go ahead and get into this because, y'all know how I like to start the show. I like to start off with a little bit of satire, a little bit of humor, a little bit of comedy, And today is no different. This first article is from the Babylon Bee. I love the Babylon Bee. They crack me up, some of the stuff that they put in there. And this article actually cracked me up for a multitude of reasons. Let's go ahead and look at that article. Headline, white privilege card now good for 10% off at Whole Foods. That is right. According to representative for the official white privilege rewards program, every Caucasian person, white privilege card is now good for a full 10% off at participating Whole Food locations. And you can also, by scrolling down a little bit more in the article, apparently that was way too far. It's also good for a free pancake plate at IHOP and $5 off your next oil change at Walmart. I had to laugh. I had to laugh. Now, again, I had to laugh for multiple reasons. One, this was just funny. But one of the reasons why this cracked me up so much is because you can actually get a white privilege card from the Hodge twins, brothers, conservative, that actually have available on their website and on their Amazon store a white privilege card. This is what that looks like over on Amazon. The white privilege card trumps everything. A member since birth, good through death. The card holder name on here is Scott Free. And again, I had to laugh because this is actually available. Now, here's the thing, all right? For those of you that don't know, and I'm sure that most of us here do, we're conservatives. We know what's up. The Hodge twins, well, they're black. And that's one of the things that makes this thing just epic and hilarious. And I tell you what, after reading this article, I'm like, I really want to get some white privilege cards and then go to Walmart and see if I can't get a deal on my next oil change, $5 off. I want to try it. I want to check it out. I'm like, show them the article and just kind of play with it, from there. Just, put my white privilege card down on the table and just see what happens. I'm sure I'll get a laugh out of it. It cracked me up. I thought it was hilarious. I figured I'd pass that on to you and let you get the enjoyment out of it as well. Moving on. Now we're actually going to get into a little bit more serious stuff. Starting with this article from Town Hall. See, for those of you that don't know, this past weekend, I don't actually remember if it's still going on now, but I know that it was going on both Friday and Saturday. Turning Point USA was down in, I believe, Tampa, Florida. It was definitely down in Florida. I think Tampa. Could be wrong on that. Don't quote me. And, it was amazing because there was all 50 states and then some represented there in Florida. A pretty good positive turnout of college kids looking to better arm themselves against the left propaganda, against the indoctrination that goes on college campuses all across the country. I mean, it literally does. It goes all across the country. A while back ago, I talked about this on a previous episode, that there was a guy that came over here from North Korea, and he actually said of our education system that we do a better job indoctrinating than what they do in North Korea, a communist state. Is that sad or is that sad? Now, this headline, let's go ahead and get into this from Town Hall. Governor DeSantis rips Biden apart again with some deer in headlight stuff. And I tell you what, there was some stuff in here that's just holy crap. Now, here's one of the things that I like about any of these things, whether it be Turning Point USA, whether it be, the RNC, whether it be, CPAC, you get a lot of conservatives in one space. And it's kind of one of the things that turns into in a matter of speaking, no holds barred whenever it comes to, rallying the base and trying to, put yourself out there as the most conservative candidate, that there is. But Ron DeSantis has definitely proven himself worthy of that title time and time again. He really has. With his policies that, he has been implementing there down in Florida. But some of the stuff that he has said, talking about Biden's recent positive test and getting sick with COVID. And some of the things in here, he came in and cracked the printing presses, kneecapped the American energy, and he also opened our southern border. And what we've seen in the last year and a half is the largest illegal migration into this country in the history of the United States of America. We have record human trafficking. We have record sex trafficking. We have record drug trafficking. And, a deer in headlights type of a moment, talking about his state of Florida. He slammed the Democrats for their radical progressive agenda, including their woke ideology, their push for critical race theory in schools, and their uproar over DeSantis's parental rights in education law. They are more apt to be talking about pronouns than they are about winning wars. And I'm sure that he was talking about, the leaving Afghanistan and that fiasco where we still have stranded Americans stuck in that country. Still. And talking about pronouns, let's go ahead and move over to another person who was speaking at the Turning Point USA. And you guys are going to love this. I thought this was absolutely hilarious. Again, you get a bunch of conservatives in the same place where they don't really have to, kowtow to the right, and they don't have to play nice and play fair and all this other kind of stuff. They are more apt to speak their mind, and Ted Cruz did just that. This headline from Red State: protesters unhinged at Turning Point USA Summit. Ted Cruz has best response to woke insanity. I read this because I was kind of curious. What did he say? And yes, it was in Tampa, Florida, according to this article. He said, as we reported, Ron DeSantis going into that stuff. And let me scroll down to where this actually is. I guess there was a lot of people that was upset about, things going on. There was some protests outside and things of that nature, and one of the things that he said, and this is what he ended at Turning Point USA with, Senator Ted Cruz had a great response to their insistence of adherence to the woke leftist language and agenda. He shared a story. A student told him that they were required to stand up and introduce themselves while telling people what their pronouns were. And Ted Cruz responded with, "Well, I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronouns are kiss my ass." Yes, that's absolutely what he said. That's just one of the things, man. Guys, I am I'm a Gen Xer. Okay. You're not going to hurt my feelings. I'm not going to say it's because I have no feelings. It's just because I grew up different, as most people in my generation did. We grew up with an understanding that our feelings don't matter, especially whenever you're trying to weigh them against facts. Your feelings do not outweigh a factual argument. It doesn't matter how you feel about it. You can be what you are, but you're either this or that, and I've even told somebody before, I'm like, look, if I am misidentifying you because I am not using the pronouns that you would like me to use for you, then obviously you are doing a poor job at putting yourself out there to where I have no idea what you are, or I know what you are and it's not what you portray yourself to be. It's your marketing needs to improve. Not my eyesight, your marketing. I've told somebody that. They didn't really like that too well, but, it is what it is. Look, you can be what you want to be. I don't care. Be gay, be straight, be whatever you want to be. I don't care. But to think that people need to walk on eggshells because you want to be portrayed as this, that, or the other is completely ridiculous. I mean, it really is. I mean, let's just call a spade a spade. It's ridiculous. You know, it very much is. You know, I mean, if that be the case, then I can identify as a skinny, gorgeous, very good-looking black woman, and there's nothing you can say about it. You know, I mean, if you can pick your pronouns, and I can pick my adjectives. But we all know that that's kind of ridiculous. You can't do that. You know. Anyway, moving on. Actually, you know what? That wraps up this segment. Yes, it does. And so we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. And when we return, we are going to come back talking about green new energy. We're going to talk about, you know, climate change and different stuff of that nature. And I got some facts and I got some figures that I'm wanting to share with you. I really do. Because, you know, we've all heard this push for green energy. Okay. We have all seen the destruction of oil and natural gas at the pumps by the administration, crippling our ability to, you know, find new sources of oil, drill for the oil that we have already found, all these other kind of things, by canceling land leases and everything else, and putting way more things in the way for us to do anything to actually help drive the price down. And then they're surprised whenever the price keeps going up. So we got some things we're going to be talking about on that. So just a couple minutes and I will be right back. This is the Ho Ho Show.
You are correct. You are correct. You are correct. You are correct.
Have you ever sat down on your throne just to find out that you are dangerously low on shift tickets, making it to where you have to make a mad dash to the store just to pick yourself up some? If this has ever happened to you, pick up the #1 most rated toilet paper found in Uranus and use what the professionals use. Angel Soft. See, I'm just not a fan of some toilet paper. Some of them it's like putting a pillow between your nice rosy. Others, like John Wayne toilet paper, it's like using sandpaper. But do what the professionals use. Use the type of toilet paper that is the Goldilocks of brands, Angel Soft. Available wherever toilet paper is sold. All right, and we are back. So, this segment we're going to be talking about green new energy. We're going to be talking about, solar power. We're going to be talking about wind turbines. We're going to be talking about, batteries and electric vehicles. We're going to be talking about all that stuff. We're going to be talking about, power plants and where we get our electricity from. We're going to be talking about all of that. But first, let's go ahead and go into this headline. Now, this headline is an article that I actually read. This was more or less just a headline that got me someplace else and got me thinking about this. And, let's put together some facts, shall we? Because the truth shall set you free. That is the topic. That is the title of today's program. The truth shall set you free. So the headline is, Green Energy Building a New Dependency. Now, like I said, this was something that was a stepping block to get to somewhere else, okay? And it has to revolve around the viability of green energy, wind, and solar. That's what it has to revolve around. Even nuclear energy isn't even included into this because, nuclear energy, even though it's clean, that isn't a viable option for the left. They want solar. And I heard a theory that they're basically doing this to try to totally seize control of energy production and everything else in the country. But and that, that may very well be true because they know that no matter how hard they try, no matter how much they try to subsidize and how much they try to pay for research and development, there is no way in the time frame that they want to do it that they can actually shut down coal mines, natural gas, and nuclear energy. It is impossible. With the influx of illegals into our country, driving up demand, not only driving up demand on that aspect, but also driving up demand by wanting to switch our vehicles by, 2030 or 2035, something like that, putting that much more of a strain on an already strained electrical grid. It's just not going to happen. Even now, we can't handle that in some places. They have blackouts, they have brownouts, you can't do it. And that's going to up with electrical vehicles the amount of power, the amount of power consumption that they already have. Now, here is something from, it's called Fuel Mix from the 21st of July, 2022. And this gives total megawatts of usage nationwide. Now, I've talked about this in the past, and the numbers last time were a little bit different, but still pretty darn close to the same. So, things have shifted around just a little bit, but not much. Not enough to really say that we've made any headway towards green energy, and we are less dependent on coal, natural gas, and nuclear. Here's what that looks like. Coal is number one at just under 43%. Natural gas is second, just over 37%. Nuclear, just under 9%. Wind, just over 6%. Other, and I don't even know what other is, just about 3.25%. And then solar at 1.63% of all energy production. That's where they're at. It actually gives the numbers next to it, so you actually know what you're looking at, not just a percentage, but the actual number. And one of the things, too, that was thrown out there, because I was listening to, I believe it was the Will Majority. And, he was talking with a guy on there, and it was the usage of, I believe, the city of New York being 50 terawatts. And I don't know if this was a day, a month, a week, a year, whatever. I don't know exactly the time frame. Let's just say it was 50 terawatts a day. I think that's more or less what it was. I could be wrong on that, but it was 50 terawatts. That's a lot. That is, 1 terawatt is 1 trillion watts. That's a lot of watts. That's a lot of watts, guys. That's a lot of watts. Now, if you're looking at solar, if you're looking at wind, one of them big industrial wind turbines only produces about 2 megawatts within that same time frame of the 50 terawatt. A wind turbine's only going to account for 2 megawatts. That's it. That's 2 million watts. That's a far cry away from, the 50 trillion that we need. And it was how many how many wind turbines would they need in order to power the nation? And it was the entire state of Texas. No people, no trees, no agriculture, no drilling, no nothing, just wind turbines. And with the forecast of electric vehicles that they are wanting to do, they are going to have to add the entire state of Oklahoma in order to have enough energy to run the power grid. That's a lot of land, guys. That's a lot of land. So they're wanting to shut down coal, natural gas, nuclear, and that makes up roughly, let's say 50, 60, 70, 80, almost 90% of all the power that's generated in this country. Almost 90%. Like 88 maybe is about what it is. I mean, I don't know. You just do the math, 43, 37, and 9. So you're talking about, 89% of all power that they're wanting to get rid of in favor of something that is not capable of filling the void. It's not capable. It can't be done. And not even to mention the fact that even if we do go green, we can't go green. Only about 40% of all of crude, a barrel of crude, only about 40% of it goes to making gasoline. I don't know as far as diesel, that being thrown in there, but the majority of it is used in making different products, oils, plastic, makeup, hydraulic fluid, all the other things that we use on a daily basis. Like, people have no idea. I have no idea just how much stuff, how dependent we are on petroleum-based products. They're everywhere. I mean, they really are. It's basically one of the things that you ain't surviving without petroleum-based products. Plastics, especially in the medical field, you are not surviving without petroleum-based products. How else do you think you're going to get a shot into your arm? It's petroleum-based products. It's where that plastic comes from. It's where a lot of those things comes from. That's where makeup comes from. It's a petroleum-based product. But not to mention that, because, they require, just on the wind turbine side of it, they require so much maintenance, so much oil, so much upkeep, like a bunch every single day that they are running, and they have to move. They have to be kept so far away from other turbines, otherwise the turbulence will tear them apart. And the fun thing is that, one, none of these are made, at least I don't believe any of the solar turbines are made in the U.S., but none of them are recyclable. None of them. There's not a single part of a wind turbine that once it has lived its life and is no good, it has gone bad, needs to be replaced, needs to be fixed. There's not a single part of it that's actually recyclable and can be reused. They dig pits and they put it in a landfill. How is that good for the environment? Here they're wanting to go green, get rid of coal, get rid of natural gas, get rid of nuclear. They're wanting to go solar, and yet they're doing this, and I said this about the whole paper, the whole thing about paper straws. You always remember paper straws. It's still kind of a thing in some places you go to. I'm not exactly sure how bad it is, but like I know Canada, like completely got away from plastic straws. And it was ridiculous because it's like, dude, the plastic in plastic straws can actually be recycled and used for something else. You're virtue signaling for the sake of virtue signaling because a paper straw can't be used for anything else besides that paper straw. One and done, it goes into a landfill. You can't do nothing else with it. So you're virtue signaling for the sake of virtue signaling. That's what this amounts to. You're not going to keep up with the demand. These are horrible for the environment because you can't recycle any of it. And I haven't even gotten into the whole aspect of electric vehicles and battery operated thingamajiggers. Because those are ridiculous. Because they've put a moratorium on mining for things that is necessary for the building and the production and manufacturing of batteries, basically making it to where we have to get all of it more or less from China because like 90 some odd percent of all of, lithium and all of that kind of crap to make batteries comes from China. So not only are we shutting down, coal production, we're shutting down, drilling of natural gas and gasoline and trying to get rid of as much as possible petroleum-based products. Not only are we doing all of that, but we are forcing ourselves yet again to be subject to another country that basically wants to, they want to knock us off our high horse. Because that's where all these things come from. And they're wanting that switch over to electric vehicles. One, we don't have the infrastructure, the power grid to sustain it now. Not only that, what happens when these batteries go bad? Can you recycle them? Not all of them. These things are high powered. They only have a shelf life of so long before you got to replace them. And then what do you do with the batteries once you're done with them? You take an internal combustible engine. Yes, it's been obsolete since 1978. Yes, we've had better technology, but unfortunately, the oil companies and big corporate entities, they buy out this these patents and then they bury it to where we can't even use it. Yes, the internal combustible engine has been obsolete for so long. It's like, why in the world you want to go green, but yet Back to the Future with the whole dumping stuff into the whatchamajigger in order to make the thing go because it no longer needed the 1.21 gigawatts worth of electricity that you needed a nuclear reactor in order to generate. You no longer had to do that. They can just dump a bunch of stuff in there and it would, by some type of fusion or whatever, it would actually work. They basically have made stuff like that. They have made engines that can run off of water, separating the hydrogen from the oxygen. Clean energy. They've made these. This has been tested. It has worked. Many people have done it. Why isn't that technology available? If they truly want to go green, why don't they use something that is actually renewable energy that wouldn't make us dependent upon the power grid? I mean, that's one of them problems that I've had with EV, electric vehicles since day one. It's like, dude, why do I have to plug it in ever? Why? I shouldn't have to. Because you can put an alternator on this thing. You can put it, attach it, to, like basically have it hover over your rotors to where, it's generating that magnetic current, that electro current to recharge the batteries. Why do I have to plug it in at all? This is stuff that people has already figured out. Why don't we actually use it? Oh yeah, because we have to plug it in because we got to be dependent upon something. Did you know that in Florida, it is illegal to live off the grid? If you have a setup to where you don't have to be, tied into, city water and power, that it is actually illegal that you do that. You have to be plugged in. You don't necessarily have to consume the energy, but you have to be plugged in. It's like, dude, now this is from a while ago. That law may have changed since, but this was still how it was a while ago. It was illegal to live completely off the grid. You still had to be plugged in. Why? If you're self-sufficient, you got the solar, you got the you got hydroelectricity going on. If you're living next to a body of water, if you've got the wind turbine, the windmill, why do you got to be plugged in? Never understood that. They want us dependent in some way, shape, or form on power, on gas, on something. They don't want the cheap alternative. Let's rewind into the pages of history. Nikola Tesla, who was the creator of the very power you are using in your home right now, AC current, was Nikola Tesla's idea. But who's the person who's attributed with that? Edison. Why? Because Nikola Tesla wanted to make energy free to people. That's what he wanted to do. That's what his vision was. But the powers that be said, no, there is way too much money in power. In power. We can't just give it for free. How are we supposed to make money on it? Well, you make money off the products that you sell. You make money on the sales tax. You don't necessarily have to be making money on the usage if you're making money on the sales. That was Nikola Tesla's dream, but I don't want to say he was an ideologue. He was an idealist. The man was ahead of his time. Very much ahead of his time. Moving on. This headline from Mother Jones, really? Okay, what happens if the world gets too hot for animals to survive? Now, this is something that I talked about not that long ago on the program. Talking about how, carbon emissions isn't necessarily a bad thing, that we are actually dangerously low on the amount of carbon emissions that we have. And that's one of the things that it's doing is that, that carbon in the air, it kind of helps with the formation of different storms, with rain, with all kinds of other things to help kind of cool the temperatures in some places down. We are dangerously low on the amount of carbon emissions that we have in this country. We really are. What happens if the world gets too hot for animals to survive? Now, look, guys, look at you. I don't buy into the whole thing of climate change. I'm going to be honest with you. Okay? This article from Politico, Al Gore compares climate deniers to Uvalde police officers, however you spell that. But yeah, I'm a climate denier. I'll flat admit it. Yes, I am. You want to know why I am? The answer is simple. You can't tell me in one breath that the world is going to end in 10 years based off of our energy consumption. And yet, you're going to hop on your private jet after telling me this and then go to your coastal mansion and live. Because if you truly believed the words that were coming out of your mouth, then you wouldn't be flying a private jet because you are contributing to the problem that you're telling me about. You wouldn't live near the ocean where if what you say is true, the oceans are going to, swallow up all the coastal land because of the melting ice caps. You're not going to live in a place that is going to be gone in 10 years. This is a long-term investment. You're not going to do that. That would be stupid. These people don't even believe the crap that comes out of their own mouths. Their actions speak far louder than the words they just vomit out. I once asked a buddy of mine's boy, he was all like, climate change, yada, yada, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, let me ask you a question. Now, I'm not going to say that we as people may not contribute to different things, but being the cause of it, no. You're never going to convince me that. And the reason being, have we ever had an ice age on this planet before? Yes, we have. In fact, we have had multiple. And my buddy's boy acknowledged that. But yes, we have had an ice age. I said, okay. So if mankind is the only thing that could run amok things going on this planet to the point to where we are the only thing that can cause this type of global disaster and climate shift, how was it that the ice age happened before the Industrial Revolution? He didn't have an answer for that. So that's because it's not true. Yes, climate changes, but that's not the same as man-made climate change. That's different. See, here's the thing whenever it comes to weather. Okay? The earth, in all its glory, is about balance. You get cold fronts moving in. You have a clashing of a cold front and a warm front, and it causes storms. Why? Because there is no balance. The storm only ends when balance has been achieved. We're on an axis, rotating around the sun. The sun is an object that warms things up. As we tilt on that axis to a point to where we are in more direct sunlight, it gets warmer. When we tilt away to where we're not getting quite as much direct sunlight, things get colder. July 21st is the longest day in the year. December 21st is the coldest day in the year. There's a reason for that. July, we're closer, more direct sunlight, as to in December, we're not. That's why it's colder in the later months, and then later in the early months, and then really warm in June, July, August. It's pretty warm then. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that's how weather happens. But for some reason, we have these storms at the same time we have them every year. It's not a surprise that we're having storms again. It's not, I'm going to make a prediction. Come winter, we're going to get snow. The further north you are, the more snow you're going to get. The further south you are, the less snow you're going to get. That's my prediction. Am I psychic? No. I know weather. Doesn't take a rocket scientist. But you're not going to convince me because of their own actions, because of my own intelligence, that this whole man-made climate change, as in we're the only people that can affect it, is a thing. I'm not saying that we're not contributing in some way, shape, or form, but our planet, with its weather, acts on balance. When there is an imbalance, the earth makes balance. Actually, the earth makes a storm, and the storm brings balance. That's how things work. It is. That's how things work. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break. And when I return on the other side, we are going to be talking about some of this stuff on the Supreme Court. There's been some stuff that has been popping up that, definitely has my blood a-boiling. I know I talked about this not that long ago, talking about, with some of the stuff that's been going on with the Supreme Court and some of their decisions as of recently. Well, it seems as though the left is really having some problems with that. So we're going to talk about on the other side of the break. Just a minute or a couple, and I'll be right back.
You are correct. You are correct. You are correct. You are correct.
Have you ever been so full of it your eyes are brown? Have you ever sat on the toilet but nothing comes out? Is a box of frosted shredded wheat just not doing the trick? Well, have I got the ultimate solution for you? Tide Pod Brand Colon Cleanse. See, Tide Pod Brand Colon Cleanse is that particular product that will break through the sphincter like the Kool-Aid Man through a brick wall. Oh yeah! No more irregularity, no more cramping, just good old nice flow. That's right, Tide Pod Brand Colon Cleanse. Please use responsibly and use at home. This is a fast-acting product now available in Tropical Punch. All right, and we are back. So y'all, I want to talk a little bit about this whole Supreme Court thing and some of the stuff that has been going on. We are moving right along in the show. Yes, we are. Now, here's the thing, okay? The Supreme Court in our founding was intended to be the check to power for both the executive branch and the legislative branch, because they felt that considering their job, their task laid out before them by the Constitution of the United States of America, that they were to be the apolitical branch of government, as in they weren't supposed to necessarily have a political tie. They weren't supposed to be making their decisions based off of political affiliation. It was supposed to be based off of the Constitution. Is this law constitutional? Or does it go against the Constitution? That simple. That simple. Is what the executive branch doing, does it go against the Constitution? Or does it not go against the Constitution? It was that simple. No nuances. No nothing. It truly was that simple. So this headline, Keegan says that the Supreme Court earns its legitimacy by being apolitical. Well, she's absolutely right. That headline from Axios. Now, I have no idea who Justice Ellen Keegan is. I have absolutely no idea. I to be perfectly honest with you, I don't even know if she's Republican or she's Democrat, but what she says here is at least 100% correct. I got no issues with that whatsoever, because that's exactly what the Supreme Court was supposed to be, apolitical. It wasn't. It was supposed to be above the bindings of party politics. They don't have to go for re-election. They don't have to do any of that crap. Not necessarily that they were originally intended to be appointed for life. They were supposed to be appointed during times of good, whatever, I forget the terminology, that it necessarily says, but, good standing, I guess you can say. That's basically what it was originally intended to be. Not necessarily an appointment for life, but an appointment during good standing. And it's easy. You want to get rid of a justice? Impeach him. Because those impeachment procedures still hold true to the Supreme Court. They can be impeached. But they were founded to be a political branch, non-party affiliated, and it was supposed to be weighed against the Constitution. Now, here's the thing. Now, we talked about this before. This headline from The Atlantic: a court without precedent. And we'll go ahead and move on to this one, to the slate, why this original Supreme Court would disappoint the founders. And from the Asharo al-Sahat, Supreme Court originalists are flying a false flag, whatever. But going back to this whole, a court without precedent. Now, of course, they're talking about the whole overturning of Roe v. Wade. Obviously, But here's the thing, guys. There is nothing in the Constitution outlines any legitimacy, any validity, any solid tangibility to case law and case law precedent. It doesn't exist. Because here's the thing, and this was something, this was something that I kind of laid out on a previous episode. But, if you go based off of case law precedents, it's, well, this can be tied to this. And you take that half a step away from the Constitution towards something that isn't Constitution, but it's okay because it's like right there. And then the next ruling that happens just goes a little bit further, and then a little bit further, and then a little bit further. If you keep going based off of case law precedent, eventually you come up with something that doesn't have anything to do with the Constitution. And that's why we are in the state that we are at now. Case law precedent has driven us to a point to where we no longer live in the America that was founding by our founding fathers. We're not there. We now more closely resemble a communist nation, and we have more in common with the 10 pillars of communism than what we do the Bill of Rights. We have more in common as a nation right now with things were better under English as colonists. We had things better then than what we do now. I've talked about this under a segment, the episode of Knowing the Constitution with the Declaration, Knowing the Declaration. I talked about this. All the transgressions, and tied them into today and what has been going on just over the past 2 years, how every single violation, things that we held against the crown of Great Britain, our political governing class has been doing that and worse to us now. That's how we have gotten so far away from the Constitution due to case law precedents, due to things just not going according to what the Constitution prescribes that it should be. I mean, come on. Do you realize that more regulations are written in a year than actual law? Like, so much that it is absolutely pathetic. Like this would represent the amount of laws written in a year, and then a stack like 7 feet tall. You know, a few inches, and then 7 feet, as in the stack of paper from ground to 7 feet tall, the stack of paper of regulations that were written in the same freaking year. Regulations that carry the weight of law, but it's not law. That's not constitutional. The executive branch does not have the constitutional right to legislate. That belongs within the legislative branch. That's Congress. We have gone so far away from what was intended. Power has been snagged for the sake of political expediency, for the sake of, I didn't do it. A bunch of unelected bureaucrats did it. The president, I didn't do it. I didn't write these regulations. It's the EPA that wrote these regulations. I didn't write these regulations. It's the DOT that wrote these regulations. I didn't write these regulations. It's the Department of Education that wrote these regulations. I had nothing to do with it. Plausible deniability needs to go out the freaking window. We need to hold every one of these people accountable for what's going on, from the president to all of our representatives, because they're the ones that has allowed the perversion of the Constitution. We're not where we used to be. And to say that our founding fathers would somehow be upset that this Supreme Court has actually done something to uphold the Constitution, you're just lying. Liar, liar, pants on fire. It's ridiculous. I mean, do we not know how to read? I mean, really, do we not know how to read? Are we really that stupid? You know, are we so ignorant that we can't understand a little bitty 30 some odd page, I'm sorry, 46, once you take, all of this stuff in here, wait, let me get to where the ending of it is. Okay, 39 pages. Are we so ignorant as people we can't even read and understand a 39-page pamphlet? We can't understand this written in basic English, and all we got to do is, one, go to the Federalist Papers to find out what they actually meant, and two, actually crack open a freaking dictionary to find out what these words meant, that we don't need some scholar because it was written in dumb English. It wasn't written in legal speak. It would have been like 50,000 times bigger if it was written in legal speak. Think about how big Obamacare was. The thing was bigger than the Bible. This thing is about the size of 1 John. For anybody that has read the Holy Bible knows that that's pretty stinking funny. That's a small book. It was written in dumb English, and these people weren't idiots. They were smart and intelligent. Why did they write it in dumb English? So that this way the average everyday man could understand what it was talking about. Because they didn't want you to be confused. They didn't want your freedom to lie within the hands of somebody else to twist and manipulate you for. They wanted to keep it stupid so you would know your rights and your freedoms. That's why they did it like that. They wrote it in dumb speak. They didn't write it in such a way that you had to have a doctorate degree or an associate's degree or a master's degree or whatever in order to understand what it said. It was speaking in dumb English so everybody would know the freedoms endowed by them by their Creator. Unalienable rights. Because unalienable rights are rights that they acknowledge in the Constitution as given to you by your Creator. The old saying is, what God has given you, no man can take away. But what man has given you, man can take away. That's why it words it like that in the Constitution. Unalienable rights. Rights that cannot be taken away from you by man because they were granted to you by God. By nature and nature's God, by the Creator, period. I don't care if you are a believer. It doesn't freaking matter. It doesn't matter. You still have those rights and freedoms. The freedom of speech, the freedom to peaceably assemble, the freedom to carry a gun and protect yourself against all enemies, foreign and domestic. It's not hard to understand. It was written in a way for the average, everyday citizen to be able to understand it and to be able to exercise their freedoms and to be able to hold their representatives accountable. Because we don't have a top-down form of government. Joe Biden is our president. He is not our king. He's our president. He's the low man on the totem pole. He is our representative, not our leader. He follows our lead, not the other way around. That's how our government was established. It's high time we as the American people understand that and remember that. Abso-freaking-positively. That made way more sense in my head. Do I take another break? I don't think so. We don't really have, doesn't look like we have all that much more to talk about. Yeah, not really. A little bit on crypto, but those articles are available in the magazine. And of course, if you guys want to, check out all of the articles that I use in the magazine, you can head on over to thehohoshow.com and just click on that newsfeed tab at the top right portion of the page. And there you'll see the, my magazine on Flipboard, which is my go-to hub, my one-stop shop for anything, everything, and all things news. And no, they are not a sponsor. I just like how they do things. A hub for news that you can bring articles in from outside sources and put in your magazine, and they have a butt ton of sources in there, highly customizable for you. There's only one thing that they do that I don't really care about, and that's, not everybody can just read a magazine. You first got to log in. It's the only thing that they do that I don't really like, but, hey, it is what it is. Small price to pay, whatever. I don't care. I like what they do. I think it's awesome. I wanted a news hub that I can put everything together in one place to make it easier for me to do things and to show y'all what I got's going on. And I was actually looking, earlier today, there's like over 200 freaking magazines on that news feed. And hello, Brian, over there in YouTube land. He said, "What's up? Not much, man. How you doing? I hope you're doing good." All right, where were we? Yes, there we were. Let me go ahead and get rid of some of these pages on here right quick and pull up a few other ones that we are going to get into. Now, look, there's been a lot of stuff going on and that has been talked about regarding the January 6th, the January 6th committee and the insurrection and all this other kind of crap and the whatever that spiffy diffy word is of people trying to overthrow the government, which didn't happen. But anyway, I'm sure y'all have heard about all that. This headline, oh wait, that's totally the wrong article. Where the heck did that article come from? Oh yeah, okay. I don't want that one. I don't care about that one. I do like that one though. We'll go into that one. Okay. So this headline from CNN Politics: did the January 6th committee prove its case a point-by-point breakdown of its major claims and the evidence presented. Now, here's the thing, guys. Here's the thing. We all know that this whole entire thing is a sham. Is anything going to come of it? No. All they are trying to do is create a narrative to embarrass Trump, to maybe bring back impeachment proceedings again, to eliminate his ability in order to run for public office again. That's all this thing amounts to. That's it. There is never going to be a trial on this, and here's why. Because in this January 6th committee, the Democrats hold all the cards. They have all the control. They know that they can control the narrative and there ain't nothing anybody can do about it. That's the bottom line. That's why they have decided to go by way of the dodo bird, because they know there's nothing nobody can do about it. But if they actually went through the process of making this a criminal investigation, then you have cross-examination. You have the defense bringing up their own witnesses in order to testify under oath. You have all these things going on that isn't going to happen in a January 6th committee where it ain't nothing but a hit piece, a hit job, a one-sided road doing nothing more than promoting a narrative, and everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. This doesn't prove anything because it's a sham. They're not talking facts. They're talking narratives. Because there is a lot of questions that they refuse to answer. Why? Because it's embarrassing to them. Why? Because if the American people actually knew, and if this actually came to light on any other place outside of a right-wing news commentary show or podcast or, somebody else out there, unless it came up in any other place besides there, people may actually think a little bit and say, hey, that's a good point. Why did the president approve 10,000 people, 10,000 National Guard troops, and none of them were activated? Why was that? I mean, here they're trying to say that President Trump was behind this whole entire thing. Yet, if he was behind it, would he actually approve the bringing up and calling of 10,000 National Guards in order to stop a protest that he started, an insurrection that he started? No, that's stupid. So why is it was done then? Because if it wasn't President Trump, then that meant that it must have been somebody else. Let's see. Who's the person in charge of the Capitol Police? And who's the person who had the power to call up these 10,000 troops if they so needed to? Who's the one who dropped the ball? Oh, wait, that would be Nancy Pelosi. That would be her peeps, because she's the one who is the end-all, be-all of the Capitol Police. She's the one who had full control, power, and authority to call them up, and she didn't. Why? And yet, we're going after Trump for this insurrection? Why? This whole thing's a sham. This whole thing was made up, and everybody knows it. But are you going to hear this on mainstream media? No. Because mainstream media is in on it. Mainstream media has been carrying the flag of left-wing politics and the Democrats for so long, I don't know where one ends and the other begins. I really don't. I have no idea. And here you have things like this going on from CBS News, the Peacock. Thank you, Linda Irwin, by the way. She's always setting me straight on this because I have, for some reason, I don't know why, but I always have a hard time remembering who the Peacock is. It's CBS News. This headline, Steve Bannon found guilty in January 6th contempt of Congress trial. Haven't you noticed it? And yes, we still have, political prisoners in this country. We are a country who now detain without due process, without a trial, Without being read their Miranda rights, we detain people in this country that are political prisoners. What do you think these people are who are still being detained all this time after January 6th? They're political prisoners. Did you know that's still going on in your country right now? Yes, it is. Steve Bannon being found guilty of let's see, was he found guilty of insurrection? No, it was contempt of Congress. Not one of these people, not one person with this whole insurrection, with this whole uproar, with this whole trying to overthrow the government, not one person has been charged with insurrection. Not a one. Interesting, isn't it? The FBI refuse to say how much they actually had to do with it. Not acknowledging any type of activity, involvement, how much they had a hand in it, how much of the planning process they had to do with it. The FBI refused to answer the tough questions. Why is that? Is that because that this whole entire thing was something cooked up by the Democrats to make the president look bad, to try to get him to go by the way of Pocahontas Phil, Poxy Phil, the groundhog? They want him to run from a shadow. That's what they're wanting him to do. Poxy. What's that guy's name? What's that groundhog? The guy that was with Bill Murray that drove the vehicular? What was it? Poxy Phil? I think something like that. Something close to that. I'm sure it was. They want him to go by way of the groundhog. To run and hide. Run away, run away. That's what they want. Because they're terrified that when he runs again, he's going to win. Why? Because the president is doing such a bang-up job. We talked about this in the first segment. Record lows of all the wrong things, record highs of all the wrong things. I mean, this president is doing a bang-up job. The best thing this president has done his entire term was get sick with the COVIDs. This guy can't do nothing right. And then going deeper into this whole freedom and rights, this article from Fox News, the left does not think the First Amendment applies to the right. And this was evidently something that was spoken by Jim Jordan on the Dan Bongino podcast. But no, the left absolutely does not think that any rights go to the right, the political right. That if you go against their narrative, if you go against what they want, what they say, it's the hypocrisy on the left has been so just put on display, hasn't it? You have them, promoting violence against people on the right, but yet, they don't want any violence to go towards people on the left. They want them protected. But yet, people on the right, they're fair game. Whenever it comes to this person's right, it's like, whoa. Our founding fathers never would have dreamed of such a world where we can electronically communicate with people on the other side of the planet in an instant. These whole telecommunications and satellite networking and having a computer at the palm of your hand. Our founding fathers never would have dreamed of this. So the freedom of speech doesn't apply to a camera on the interwebs and a news broadcast. That only applies to a soapbox on the public square. That the freedom of press, because vlogging and blogging and writing news articles and emails, that they never would have envisioned such a technology, that the freedom of press only applies to a pen and quill, an ink and quill, a quill and ink on parchment. And the right to keep and bear arms only applies to muskets. Even though they had better technology back then, but that still only applies to muskets. Because didn't you know that our founding fathers, before the founding of our nation, before the Continental Congress, before the Bill of Rights and the Constitution and all of this thing, they just got back from a hunting trip. It's not like they just got done fighting a tyrannical government over freedom. So of course that they want the American people to be far outmatched by the armaments of the government, that they have no chance of protecting their freedom. Oh, wait. I thought that was exact opposite. Maybe. Yeah. So the hypocrisy on the left is definitely huge. The January 6th was an insurrection, but yet all of the riots that happened in most every major city, well, those were just mostly peaceful protests. Interesting. Looking around at everything going on, listening to the news, watching your freedoms slowly erode into oblivion, your pocketbook dwindling, and your hard-earned time, trading your time for dollars, and those dollars not going near as far as they used to did. Going to the fuel station and paying, 70% more in fuel costs? Energy prices going through the roof, the housing market that is completely just going haywire, inflation, everything. Are you sick and tired of what's going on in this country yet? I read something in the Constitution not that long ago. And this is the beginning part of the Declaration of Independence. Let me go ahead and get into this. Now, I'm going to read a little bit on this, but I want you to listen. I very much want you to listen, because this is something that is so relevant to today, so relevant to what's going on. And I do invite you to watch the episode defending the Declaration, or, something maybe, definitely watch that episode, because I go into, not that I think it's like a defending the Declaration Part 2 or knowing the Declaration Part 2, but check that one out, because that's where I go through the transgressions. But I want you to listen to me. I want you to hear this. If you have your own copy of the Pocket Constitution, get it out and follow along with me. I'm in the Declaration of Independence, the second paragraph. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And most people stop there. Pray continue. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of those ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it. To institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. And accordingly, all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism. It is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies. And such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former system of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. I was talking earlier. Have you had enough yet? We as a people are more apt to suffer while we can suffer. But when our suffering is no longer bearable, that's when people rise up. Our economy is tanking, not by accident, by design. Fuel pricing soaring, not by accident, by design. Illegal immigration, border crossing, human trafficking, sex trafficking, drug smuggling, all this is being done by design. No president in the history of the United States has done so little to protect the American citizens. Nobody has failed this badly. Either he is the most horrible president ever in the history of presidency and should be impeached immediately, removed from office, the entire party kicked to the curb, or it is being done on purpose. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that Biden is some sort of genius. We all know that he's nothing more than a puppet. Somebody else is pulling the strings. He's not competent. He can't even read a teleprompter. Not like I can read a teleprompter. Trust me, I can. I've tried. I suck at it. But how long until we can no longer take care of that which we need to take care of? We can no longer provide security and the things that we need to the people we hold most dear. When is that time going to happen to where we can no longer stand for what's going on? When is that time? I can't answer that question. Only you can answer that question. But I think America's running out of patience. I really do. I think the people are getting fed up. You know, we live in the information age, which makes it a hell of a lot harder for people to be able to lie consistently without getting caught. I mean, whenever you can, right then and there, somebody tells you, hey, well, I said this on this day, and you can pull up a video on YouTube and go, no, you didn't. Here it is. You said this instead. So either you're lying to me now or you're lying to me then. Either way you look at it, you're a liar. How can I believe anything that comes out of your mouth? Maybe you need to leave office. You don't work for me, and I sure as hell don't work for you. You're my representative. You're not my leader. We're reaching a tipping point in this country where people are going to wake up and remember, Mufasa, remember who you are. Mufasa, who? Time's coming. We're going to remember. We are going to remember. And I don't know when that time's going to be. I really don't. But I hope we wake up. I hope we right this ship. I hope we haven't crossed the point of no return. That's all I got for y'all today. See you next week.
This has been The Ho Ho Show. For more information, you can head to thehohoshow.com. And for the merchandise store, you can head on over to stinkpickle.com. That is stinkpikle.com. Until next time.